Welcome to another edition of Geopolitics and Empire. Quick reminder, support the transmission. You can do that by becoming a paid subscriber on the Substack. We do private weekly group Zoom chats with paid subscribers only to shoot the breeze. I also bring back past podcast guests to do a live Q&A with paid subscribers only. And I do a weekly roundup of the most important news headlines of the week, coupled with my commentary, which readers are very much enjoying. So that's the best way to support Geopolitics and Empire. You can also donate through Buy Me a Coffee Wise donor box. Remember that I am banned from Patreon and PayPal. You can also purchase a consult if you want to chat with me, and do check out all of my affiliates over at the website and leave a podcast review if you have not already for Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. You can leave a podcast review. Joining us on this episode is Jeremy Cordon, CEO and co-founder of Goldback Inc. The website, again, is goldback.com. Link is in the description. Welcome to Geopolitics and Empire, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me.
I had wanted to show, I actually, I realized I had some of your Goldbacks. I was at a Ron Paul Institute conference, I think it was last year, and someone had given me some Goldbacks, and there's somewhere here in my office, and I could not, it's a bit of a mess. I couldn't find them, but, we'll get to the Goldbacks in a moment, but just briefly about your background, the creation of Goldbacks. In your bio, it says you developed a passion for precious metals after watching Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money. And when I used to teach economics, I would show the Hidden Secrets of Money to my students. So that's pretty interesting. And so if you want to just tell us a bit about your background and how Goldback came about.
Sure. Yeah. I got kind of sucked into the precious metals world with the Ron Paul movement back in 2011. I was a delegate for Ron Paul in Utah in 2011 when I was just a young guy. And he talked a lot about sound of money. And for whatever reason, that particular topic stuck with me and, was something that, I wanted to build my career in.
Yeah, and it's just a great industry. And before getting to gold, I always like to get my guests sort of pulse on the state of the world. In your case, economy, money, financial system. Things don't look good. I recently had a guest on, a retired wealth manager from Switzerland, and we were discussing this. And we're headed off some cliff. On the podcast, I've had everyone from Peter Schiff to Jim Rogers to Mark Faber. And no one knows exactly when, but things just don't look good. The debts of governments are exploding, bank losses are mounting, and so just what are your thoughts as to where we're at?
It's anyone's guess. If you read Zero Hedge or some of this alternative news, I've been kind of waiting for the second shoe to drop for 10, 15 years. I think any time that we have now is a blessing. It's certainly given us time to, build up this business and give people options, outside of inflationary currency.
But you do think that, eventually, like some of these other folks that I mentioned, that we are at some point going to, experience, Doug Casey calls it, like, I think he says Greater Depression 2.0 or something like that.
Yeah, I hope not, but, it could it could happen. Our currency is, that we use it's fiat currency, and there's a lot of it, and it's quickly losing its value. And, that problem could get a lot worse. It could get better, but the trend has been bad. So, I don't know when that's going to happen. But it certainly could.
And then ways to prepare, whether for this crisis that's coming or other crises that are just natural part of life. And, precious metals, gold, just on that alone, I think I've come to the conclusion that it's good to be diversified. Again, I referencing my recent chat with this retired Swiss wealth manager. You want to be diversified: property, precious metals, maybe some crypto, maybe some stocks. And, he told me, I came to the conclusion that I feel safer having a higher amount of assets in gold and silver, like 20% at least. And he told me he had initially, I think, been recommending something like 10%, and that now he regrets, he wished it had been higher. And so just your thoughts on people owning gold?
If you're saving in dollars, the dollar is losing value. My grandmother, she lived across from this old Jewish lady who in the 1960s stuck $5,000 in cash in a mason jar. Now, in the 1960s, $5,000 in cash in Berkeley, California, that'd be a 25% down payment on a house in that area. Now, she passed away, and they found this jar of bills dated to the 1960s. Well, she stuffed that away to, have something substantial for retirement. And, now it's like you probably can't even get a 25% down payment on a car for that. So, there's just so much value loss from saving in dollars. Where had she, saved in gold, it'd still get her a down payment for 20% on a house in the same area, 60 years later. So I don't really see gold as a get rich quick scheme, but it definitely preserves its purchasing power. And if you're saving, if your goal is to save, then that's kind of the pitch for gold. Warren Buffett will say, hey, gold is it's great, but it doesn't work for you. It's not generating returns. And you might want to, if you can beat the market, if you can beat inflation, if you want to own real estate, you can certainly do that. But if you just have savings that you care about, that you want to have liquid, then, gold is a great option for that.
Yeah. And I think for most middle class folks, I think one of the goals should be to create a buffer, say a cushion of savings. And as you said, I've kicked myself over the years for not purchasing a higher quantity of gold and silver, but I've seen how it has maintained my savings versus if I've kept it in Mexican pesos because I'm in Mexico, or US dollars, that has just been declining. And so I think it's important to have gold and silver where you at least maintain your purchasing power, but sometimes you can even gain more purchasing power than you would have otherwise. And then, now we come to the Goldbacks. If you want to tell us about their creation, what they are.
Sure. Well, the Goldback is a cash-like form of gold. A lot of folks own gold just in case. And if you ask them what just in case means, it can mean a lot of things. Dollars aren't working anymore. It's Depression 2.0. We've got, for whatever, our economic system is broken, so you may as well have some gold. The problem is that most gold products are these kind of 1 ounce bars, 1 ounce coins, and they're not very spendable. One, they're too valuable, and two, they can easily be counterfeited. And unless you're an expert, it's hard to tell which one's a fake and which one's not. So you have people buying gold as kind of like a bunker to have their wealth in, to survive Depression 2.0. But really the plan is, and Mike Maloney makes this case in Hidden Secrets of Money, the point is to come out with your gold and buy into whatever the new economic system is down the road. He says, well, the same knuckleheads that made the last one are going to make the new one. So you can sell your gold, you can buy into whatever the new fiat is and survive, the bombs going off and Depression 2.0, you can survive with some of your wealth. And that's not a bad play for gold. I mean, that's been the sales pitch for gold for 50 years. What we're doing with Goldback is we're getting people to spend and circulate and use gold as money today. And we're finding that about half of small business owners are willing to take payment in gold. And the Goldback makes that easy. The smallest Goldback is about $5. It's a thousandth of an ounce of gold. And, the price has been going up consistently as gold goes up. But we've also got a 5, which has 5 times the amount of gold, costs 5 times as much. The 10 times the amount of gold as the 1, costs 10 times as much. It's a fungible, interchangeable system of gold that people are using instead of dollars today.
And what you said earlier, I was going to say, I think it's also important in diversifying one's metals, having an ounce of gold, gold ounces, silver ounces, 1/10 of a gold ounce, 1/4 of a gold ounce, gold grams, Goldbacks, because again, you never know the situation that we will be facing. And have you had any issues with the government, legal issues in terms of, the use of Goldbacks?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few little run-ins with the government. State governments usually, kind of minor things. Regulators want to make sure you're not a bad guy, that you're not scamming people, that you've got, anti-money laundering things in place. So yeah, we've had a few things, nothing too crazy. I mean, at this point, we've sold $170 million worth of Goldbacks, and it's used as a local currency. So by standards for a local currency, the Goldback is the most successful local currency in the world, and people can use them, but they can use them anywhere. The value is the fact that they're made out of gold.
I wish I had my Goldbacks on hand, but
I got one right here. Yeah, we're actually going to Florida next. Florida's our next state. We're going to be doing pre-orders on December 2nd. It's going to get launched in mid-January. But right now we're signing up hundreds of businesses in Florida that we can feature as taking Goldbacks. But again, we're finding that about half of small business owners are willing to take gold as payment. So you just have to ask, hey, would you take gold as payment? And 50-50, your dentist, your chiropractor, guy at the farmer's market, guy at the garage sale, they'll go for it.
I mean, I think that is impressive that half will take them. And I've held the Goldback. It's impressive. You can put it in your wallet. Just on the item itself, in terms of degradation, how long do they last? And I've listened to some of your other interviews on other podcasts and platforms. People have actually, I think, boiled down the Goldback to get to the gold. Just your thoughts on those issues.
Yeah, Goldbacks are very tough. They're very durable. It's gold sandwiched between two layers of polymer, and the polymer can last over 1,000 years. So it'll last long enough. And who's to say it won't go 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10,000 years? So it's built to last as far as that goes.
And if people wanted to, I mean, just in theory, if they wanted to get to the actual gold, they could just do the science experiment, melt it down, and they would have the physical gold. Yeah,
they could. I mean, they destroy a lot of value. It's like melting down fine jewelry. You lose. I mean, having a thousandth of an ounce of gold that's measured and stamped with that weight and is in a form that's easy to spend. What would you rather have? Would you rather have one of these or the tiny little gold fleck? Because you can have the tiny gold fleck if you melt this down, but which one are you more likely to accept if you're a business? Do you want the gold fleck that you can't certify the weight, you don't know the purity, or do you want something that's never been counterfeited and has, a high acceptance rate?
And this idea of critical mass. So you said more or less on average, half of businesses in different states in the U.S. are willing to accept Goldbacks, and so you have to, I guess, reach a certain critical mass, level of notoriety or acceptance for Goldbacks to really function.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when we first started the Goldback, people would say, "Oh, that's cool. That's a really cute idea," but who would take it? Where am I actually going to spend these Goldbacks? And I thought, if I could just find some featured businesses, if I could find some people that would take gold, then I'd have a good answer to that. So I went out, I found 50 businesses that would be willing to take Goldbacks as payment for their current value, which is about double spot. Costs money to split an ounce of gold into 1,000 pieces. So I found about 50 businesses, and I was hoping that I'd have like a 5 to 10% acceptance rate for the Goldback. It's like maybe kind of the libertarian leaning people that really understand the monetary system. I was shocked that it was closer to 50%. And the last time I did this, the last time I brought Goldbacks to a farmer's market and went around and tried to spend them, it was over 80%. So it's caught on. People tend to like them. It's easy, So if you go to Utah and you look at Bitcoin acceptance in the state of Utah, there's 70, 80 businesses that take Bitcoin as payment in the state. There's over 800 featured businesses for the Goldback. So featured businesses for Bitcoin versus Goldback, it's 10 to 1. I'll give you another example of acceptance. So PorcFest, big libertarian festival in New Hampshire, happens every year. they were using crypto transactions before anybody. They were doing this in 2012, 2013. They were taking, Bitcoin, trading with Bitcoin at this festival with thousands of libertarians. But Goldbacks were introduced just a few years ago. And talking to one of the vendors at the last Pork Fest for June, they said that, the first year Goldbacks were introduced, they saw them around. And then the second year, about half their transactions were in Goldbacks. This year, all but one of their transactions was with Goldbacks. Because it's easy. I can take out my wallet. I can give you a Goldback. There's no 40-digit, password. There's no, I got to, use the verification to get into, it's just so seamless where I don't have to send my Bitcoin to some 40, digit wallet, right? I mean, I can hand you a Goldback and be done with it in seconds. It works just like cash.
What about the issue of fraud? You mentioned previously gold and silver that was fake or not real. That danger there's always that danger that's always existed in history. What about when it comes to Goldbacks as they become more and more used? Have you guys thought of how to tell a real Goldback from a false one if those ever come about?
Yes, I don't know how many people are watching the video, but I can show you. So these are kind of government level anti-counterfeiting features on the Goldback itself. But the best security feature is the negative image on the back. You can read the serial number through the Goldback. Now, this technology took decades to develop. There's a lot of proprietary aspects to it. Nobody else can produce something like this. I figure we're about 10 years ahead of counterfeiting. Now, the beauty of being 10 years ahead of counterfeiters is you can add new security features today to stay 10 years ahead of counterfeiters. So one thing that we're adding next year is UV blacklight images on the back that you can see with the blacklight. We're going to be incorporating new security anti-counterfeiting measures into the gold itself, things that you only see on high denomination euro notes, those types of things. So it is a constant struggle to make something that people can't counterfeit. Today, we don't have people counterfeiting Goldbacks, which is great. But there's $170 million worth of them out there. We want to make sure that we're ready, in case that ever changes.
And I know a good portion of folks listening are in the U.S. or they travel back and forth to the U.S. But what thoughts on the international aspect of Goldbacks? Have you guys had experience beyond the U.S. and selling them or having plans to make them available beyond the U.S.?
That's a good question. I am actually looking at the geography on our website for year to date right now. And let me take a look here. Okay. So in year to date, we have had 985 hits from Japan, 2,200 from France, 10,000 from the United Kingdom. We've had, what is that? 1,100 from Brazil. So we've had people, from just about every major country in the world, going to our website and, finding Goldbacks. They've made their way around the globe now, which is, really exciting because it's been, they've been out for 5 years. We started, they were $5, they were $2 when we started, and now they're over $5.
And I guess just to clarify, so the $5 Goldback, for example, is worth $5 US?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not a $5 gold; it's a $1 Goldback. So the Goldback is 1,000th of an ounce of gold. Goldbacks sell for about double their melt value consistently, and it's a sticky premium. So if gold doubles, the price of a Goldback will double too. So
would folks then have to check the website to calculate the current price of, denomination of Goldback?
Yeah. If you go to goldback.com, we get a calculator right there. We've had about 100,000 people use the calculator in the last year. And today, the price of a Goldback is $5.58. We should probably make a half Goldback just because that's kind of high for the smallest denomination.
And do you see? There's been a lot of talk. I've had a number of guests say the trend is that the world seems to be possibly moving back to gold. You've got the BRICS countries meeting as we speak. They're talking about incorporating gold and as part of their combined payment system. I've had an Indian guest on who wrote a fantastic book saying, the dollar, fiat currencies are losing value. So many governments, including in the West, might have to go back to gold. Do you see that as a trend?
I think so. I think a lot of them don't know how to do it because the whole gold standard, we hold 40%. Here's a receipt. You can turn it in and get the gold. That system failed in the 1970s. And I don't think that trust is there. I don't think anybody wants to use receipts again. So I think the technology behind the Goldback of having the physical gold in your hand is going to be extremely interesting to central banks over the coming decades. Where, the central banks, they own 20, 25% of the gold in the world. And if they can actually put that out into circulation, the job of a central bank at the end of the day is to, make a currency that people will use.
Now, when I think of it, the form that you have of the Goldback, I think is how it should be, because when we used to have our paper money backed by gold, as you said, it would be you could exchange it. I've still got some old dollar bills that say like the $5 bills from the 60s or whatever, which say you can turn them in for this amount of silver or whatever. But if you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the gold and the paper money in your hand. And so imagine a world where the whole country is using Goldbacks. That is fascinating. I do want to ask your thought. One of the things that concerns me the most is our move towards this sort of dystopian totalitarian technocracy of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, cashless society, digital ID, where if you commit a thought crime, the system can just press a button and freeze your bank account, and so forth. And so, do you have any thoughts on that trend?
When you meet somebody, oftentimes there's some business that they don't like, right? And I met my wife. She was a vegetarian at the time, and she wouldn't eat meat, so she didn't buy it, right? I mean, you vote with your dollars for what you want to support. When I was a kid, I watched that Super Size Me show, and thought, well, I never want to spend money at McDonald's, so I just didn't go, right? Like you don't have to support what you don't want. What's so interesting to me is that as worried as we are about central bank digital currencies and the war on cash, there's something very ironic about people that are highly skeptical of central banks, that are highly skeptical of the dollar, that are highly, worried about the financial system, clinging on to another central bank product, which is cash. Right? And what people are doing when they use Goldbacks is they're not using cash at all. They're outside the system. Every time you circulate a Goldback, it's a revolutionary act because you're boycotting cash. You're choosing to use inflation and resistant currency instead. Nobody that's ever used a Goldback has ever lost money on it. The first people that were accepting Goldbacks in 2019 at $2, $2.50 at their businesses, those same business owners that have 2019 Goldbacks, those things have substantially appreciated in value. Not just because a Goldback went from $250 to $550, but just the collectability of having earlier versions of Goldbacks. So nobody has ever lost money on the Goldback, but we are finding that people that want to support their local currency, their local community, local business owners that don't want to necessarily use dollars for 100% of their transactions, they're using Goldbacks. And the more Goldbacks you use, the less dollars you're using. And the more sound money you're pumping into the system and you're circulating. And there isn't really another gold product like it. Again, gold is a bunker. You got gold in your floorboards. You don't tell anybody about it. Maybe there's this day where, oh my gosh, gold's at 20,000. I got to go back to the coin store and sell it. I got to buy dollars with my gold now. But you're not circulating your gold. Or I got to buy the new central bank unit with my gold, but you're not circulating your gold. People don't want your gold. They don't want your gold coins. They don't want your gold bars. It's too much money. It might be fake. I wouldn't take it. I mean, even junk silver. You can get fake junk silver dimes on Alibaba that look very real, very, very real, and they're 10 cents. Even junk silver isn't safe, which is too bad because before Goldbacks, I've used junk silver. So we're trying to address the counterfeiting issue, and we're trying to address the having an alternative. That's inflation resistant.
Yeah, I think about that, but what you said is correct. Even cash, that I think the ideal is to avoid using their system. So, which is difficult because then you talk about barter or gold and silver.
Sure.
I had a friend who had developed an app for a time, Nomos Time Bank, which I initially plugged on the podcast. It's gone defunct because people didn't want to use it, but it was an app where in your locality, people could sign up and you could go to the hairdresser and, you get a half-hour haircut. That time, 30 minutes would be put into the bank. And then if that hairdresser went, for another service, they could exchange that time for that time. So, their technology can enable.
It's like the Ithaca hour, another local currency. The premise is that you can trade time with people, which works if your time is worth as much as someone else's time. But maybe my lawyer and my plumber are worth about the same amount an hour, but my yard guy's not.
Yeah, I guess they could create different tiers there. And then where can people buy Goldbacks in the US?
So if you go to goldback.com, there's a big list of places to buy Goldbacks. There's been a lot of local currencies, and most local currencies fail because they're also fiat. They're only circulated amongst a certain amount of businesses, and once they lose energy and momentum, they lose their network effect and they collapse. We've had about 2,000 local currencies collapse in the United States. The Goldback is different because there's intrinsic value in it. People are spending Goldbacks in Israel. They're spending Goldbacks in Japan. And oftentimes it's a tip to the waiter. It's a garage sale deal. It's your chiropractor that, wants $60 out of you. Hey, would you take gold? And, we have wallets. People buy Goldbacks, they buy wallets. I am shocked at how often my wallet empties out of Goldbacks and I have to restock it. But what I'm doing is I'm pumping sound money into the economy. I'm pumping it into the local economy. Just the other day I was leaving the grocery store and they were raising money for, a bunch of kids were raising money for their volleyball team. So I gave them a 10 gold back. I said, hey, this is a piece of gold. This is a hundredth of an ounce of gold, worth about $50. They all got so excited. And I was able to educate, this gaggle of teenagers about sound money, giving them some sound money and supporting their volleyball team. Because it's not hard to find someone that's willing to pay $50 for a gold back. They can get value out of that, whether they're trading it for dollars or whether they make another trade with it.
And I think above all, your mission is important. I'm here in Mexico, and one of the founders of Banco Azteca, Hugo Salinas Price, was mega billionaire. I think he's in his 90s now. He was of the Austrian School of Economics. His sons are running the business now. They sell exclusively silver ounces at their bank, Banco Azteca. You can open an account in silver ounces. And he attempted to make the legislation in Mexico to make the silver Libertad ounce here money. So that way people could save in pesos or silver, and the value would never go down. It would always go up with inflation. Of course, the Mexican central bank stopped it, and probably the Federal Reserve was behind the Mexican central bank stopping that. But we also have a similar movement here in Mexico called, I think they're called tumins. I've got the book, and so in different parts of Mexico, they're trying to create, as you said, a local currency. Although the different factor is, I think it's paper money, where businesses agree to use the tumin, but it doesn't have intrinsic value, unlike the Goldback. And so I think it's important to have, because I had thought, tumin could be easily counterfeited or falsified. And so they need to have some little extra aspect, like you do with whether they're silver libertads or Goldbacks, to have intrinsic value. What about businesses in the U.S.? I guess the goal is you want to get more people should, if they like this idea, sign up to accept Goldbacks. Yeah, and I assume they can do that through your website.
Yeah, we have a promotion going on right now. I mean, if you sign up on goldback.com, we'll feature your business, we'll advertise you. I'll assert that about half of small business owners will take payment in gold. So don't just go to businesses that are featured on our websites. They're not hard to spend. It's a lot of fun to spend goldbacks, just about anywhere. But for businesses that we're signing up in Florida, we're actually giving them a promotion, kind of thank you gift. This is a promo goldback. This is not the main design for the Florida Goldback. We're going to start seeing designs for the Florida Goldback every Thursday. And then we have the whole series rolling out for pre-orders in December, and then be a full-scale launch in January. What part of Mexico are you in?
Guadalajara, the second biggest city.
Guadalajara. Okay, I used to live in Mexico.
Okay, the capital, or?
Yeah, I lived in the state of Mexico, outside the capital, but kinda. It wasn't DF, it was El Estado de Mexico.
Maybe one day we'll see the Mexican Goldback. And I think any other aspects of Goldback to mention. I think I heard you also are going to have an app or something.
Yeah, we'll have an app. I mean, we'll have featured businesses on the app. You can use the calculator. Most transactions don't happen at featured businesses. Like I said, we have 100,000 hits in the calculator. They happen all over the world, even where we don't really have featured businesses. So they're not supposed to be hard to use, but it is a grassroots movement. We are seeing a lot of circulation and activity with the Goldback, and coming into next year, we've got a number of new projects where we're going to be doing more Goldbacks in more states and new things with the Goldback that we've never done before. So it's going to be a very exciting year for 2025.
Well, I wish Goldback a lot of success. It's a great mission. It's a moral, I think, mission to bring back sound money and help people protect their purchasing power. And so if you got any other final thought or website to mention.
Yeah, it's just goldback.com. You can learn more. But yeah, if you want to get involved in the sound money movement, it's making a big difference when people get involved and educate the people around them. So it's been huge. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for coming on. And again, goldback.com link is in the description. I've got some Goldbacks I find valuable, even owning them, even if I'm here in Mexico. And thanks for being on Geopolitics Empire.
Yeah, thanks.